Before I get the pleasure of introducing you all to our distinguished panel, I do want to go through some housekeeping items. Since today's subject is such an important one, we're going to allow for some real-time, real-life questions. Please post them in the chat. We will ask them as they come through. Special thanks to Kelly Schultes for monitoring the chat. In addition, we are recording today's meeting, and we'll share it with you all once it's complete. With that being said, let's meet our panel. All right, can everyone see my screen here? Excellent. Today we have, oops, one quick second. I just want to say we had a bit of a last minute change, which is sort of fitting for a discussion. Bobby had an emergency, so she will not be joining us today. Our impressive speakers today are Becky Monfre. She's the Vice President of Digital Distribution at Coterie. We have Chris Cargill, the Head of Digital Distribution at Westfield. Lyndsay Mullen, the Senior Claims Manager of Commercial Lines for Progressive. And last but certainly not least, we have Bob Scullin, the Chief Business Officer at Keystone Insurers Group. I'm a huge fan of letting people do their own personal introductions, so please let me now turn this over to you, Becky.
Hello, I am Becky Monfre, as Tiffany was so kind to introduce me. I am pinch hitting for Bobby today, so happy to do that. So I am the VP of Digital here at Coterie. I'm passionate about all things digital, all things agents, all things insurance. I have 2 children, which is, I know, the big kind of topic of today's discussion. So I have a 15-year-old son, Evan, and a 12-year-old daughter, Haley, who are featured here in this picture with me. I found it incredibly hard to find a picture because not only are they at the age where we don't take pictures anymore, but they're also, you know, always on the move. And we have, I think we play about 7 or 8 teams throughout the year for each of them. So we're very busy trying to get everyone in the same spot.
Thank you, Becky. I love your picture. I am a fan of the mom selfie, so I have a lot of them as well, too. Next, I'm going to kick it over to Chris for your introductions.
Great. Thanks, Tiffany. So yeah, Chris Cargill, Head of Digital Distribution at Westfield. I have 5 kids, all seen here in the picture. I've got 11-year-old twin boys, 8 and 6-year-old daughters, and 11-month-old son. So just chasing them around to their activities and school stuff and sports and all that keeps me quite busy. Wouldn't have it any other way. So excited to be here.
I love that, Chris. I think when I saw your picture and I saw the 5 kids, I made that face. Seems like a lot of work. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and kick this over now to Lyndsay for your introductions.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to this very special panel event. I'm super excited to be here and share a little bit about my career and my life with all of you. I've been with Progressive for almost 20 years. It's crazy to be able to say that. And I work in the claims division, so happy to partner with you on this as you're one of our business partners. And outside of my day job here at Progressive, I'm also very involved with our employee resource groups. I served as the chair for our Parent Connection ERG for several years, and I'm now part of our Asian American Pacific Islander ERG and supporting that group now. In my personal life, I am a proud single parent. I've been a single parent for a very long time, and I have twin boys that are 14. They just started high school, so that's a whole other endeavor. And my youngest son, Christopher, who's 9, so he's still in elementary school, so we've got a lot of things going on. We're involved in karate, we're involved in ROTC and football and everything that you can imagine. So somehow I'm able to keep it all together, and hopefully we'll be able to talk more about that in the coming questions.
Awesome. From one single parent to another, we have some pointed questions at you today, so can't wait to hear your answers. And another set of twins, so it's another cringe there. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. Going to turn this over now to you, Bob.
Hi, Bob Scullin. I'm the Chief Business Officer at Keystone Insurers Group. I actually knew Keystone back in 2001. I had a small data consulting company, and 2009 I came on board with Keystone as their Chief Technology Officer, and then recently transitioned over to the Chief Business Officer. I have married with 2 kids. My lovely wife Sarah there is pictured, and our 2 daughters, 11 and 9. And Sarah is a stay-at-home mom, or as she likes to say, she's retired. She's heavily involved with the raising of our children, as well as volunteers over at our school. So she spends a lot of her time heavily involved with our kids.
That's great. And thanks for joining us today, Bob. I think the first time I met you, I think we geeked out about iFly for a very long time. So I can't wait to hear your stories about that today.
Yes, we got a Lego one up there.
So I'm not, maybe you geeked out a little bit more than me then, because I don't have that. So, but thank you all for your introductions. We're now going to get into some questions, but before we start with the questions, I want to thank Dan Gifford, better known as Giff, for co-hosting with me here today. Giff is our Chief Financial Officer with responsibilities for finance and HR as well. Giff, you'll be very happy to know that as soon as this meeting ends today, I'm going to head over to watch the Phillies beat the Mets. What do you think about that?
Doesn't surprise me that Tiff's going to rub Philly sports in my face, but I always affectionately refer to you as Philly Tiff, because if it's a Philly sport, you're in it. And as long as you let my Reds get into the playoffs this year, which is a pretty long shot, you'll be my best friend.
All right, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen right now, and then we're going to get right into some questions. Thanks for co-hosting, Giff. All right, so I'm going to start with probably one of the hardest ones, and I do not care who answers this question out of the panel, but who here has working parent guilt? You can just go for it. Anyone of you have working parent guilt?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly anytime you're away, or my kids actually just walked in from school, didn't say hello, but they also knew what I was doing today, so they were prepared. But I think it's also important to show them the outcome of hard work. My kids will complain, I don't want to do my homework, I don't want to go to this commitment. It's good for them to know I have those feelings too. And sometimes I don't feel like doing something or going to a trip or a meeting, but showing them how I deal with it, I think is important to show that example. But there are absolutely times when I'm away or can't be at things that can't help but feel bad.
Oh, I love that. I love the way you explain it to them. That's great. Anybody else? How do you manage that?
Yes, I've had that quite a bit, especially when the kids were younger. Now that they're getting a little older and they've got their involved with their friends, mine just got home too. I hear them there. They're probably already on FaceTime with their friends. But that time when they were really little, I really wanted to have that time together, and had at the end of the day had to travel, so I had that guilt. But FaceTime back here a lot. And then what I actually did here at home was I have a good size office. It's over the garage, so it's skinny and long. Is I actually cut the room in half, and we built a half wall, so the kids can have some toys over on one side, and I could be on the other side, and spend some time with them while I was working throughout the day.
That's awesome. I love that. What about you, Lyndsay or Becky?
I have to say, I'm super thankful to work for a company that's so flexible, where I don't really ever feel like I miss out on anything, because I'm able to, kind of bend and shift with what I have at my work schedule and maybe what the kids have going on. And so I can't say I've really ever experienced guilt from that, just because of the company that I work for. So I'm fortunate in that sense. And I can also say that, especially maybe because I have boys, I'm always proud to involve them in what I'm doing at work and tell them about what I'm doing. And even this presentation today, I was telling them on the way to school today, hey, I was invited to do this, and this is what we're going to talk about. And it almost kind of motivates them and kind of lets them, see what I do. And it's a very positive thing in our household.
I love that. It's a great spin. It really is. How about you, Becky?
I would say that, if I ever wish that, I really wish I didn't have to work today and we could just all stay home and, snuggle, or especially when they're littler, or, go to a water park and just blow off work and just fully engage. But again, similar to Lyndsay, have a very flexible work environment, and lucky to have leaders that are also parents who understand. But, I think that guilt feeling is something that I've had to work on myself, and just really saying, why do I feel guilty? And these are expectations, especially as a single mom. You have to work, right? That's part of my life and part of what I do, but also part of what I love, and that makes me who I am as a better parent because of my work and the passion that I can put into it. So just try to focus on those things, and I think we all wish we just had more time, whether it's for work or for our kids to be, very vulnerable in that discussion.
I think that's really great. I think some of the, the parents with some of the younger kids here, if you could hear anything that, the panelists just said right now, it's like kind of, check your guilt is what I heard a little bit. Like, you feel it and address it, right? Like, don't hide from it. It's a thing. Address it with your children and have an open and honest kind of conversation with them. So I really love that. You're on mute, Giff. I see you talking, but you're on mute.
I'm in a hotel lobby because I'm next door to where our COO is getting recognized for a C-suite award today. So I'm like, well, I'm going to do this because this is important to me and to this group. But so they got music overhead. I apologize if you get music in the background here, but I'd love to hear what some of the ways are that you guys stay organized and productive while you're working, and balancing that with being a parent, and how do you make all that work, and what advice do you have for our folks on the call here that they could learn from that?
For me, it's sticking to a routine, not trying to we're going to have days where we wing it, right? Where there's going to be things that come up that we don't expect. And, maybe we didn't get laundry in before we left the house that day. And, maybe we didn't get dinner started the day before. But for me, having like a good sense of structure and knowing what's to come, keeping organized, it keeps me on track. And if I don't have that even piece of structure to go by, it stresses everyone out, not just me, but also the kids too, and they feel it. So structure is what it's all about.
For me, I would say similar, work, like understanding when I work best. So for me, especially in the summertime, when the kids can kind of slow roll their mornings and they're getting up whenever they want versus we got to get to school. So for me, it's like, I'm getting up normal time, doing all my work. And then every day, make sure that I have, like, I'm taking a real lunch when my kids are home from school. And, whether that's making, grilled cheese or just throwing in a pizza, whatever it might be, not outdoing myself, but having those 30 minutes or whatever it is to really like spend time with them and realize like work waits. It really does.
I'm taking notes on that. Spend time with them in the summertime when you can. It's a great thing.
Very similar approach here, for the personal life. My wife and I usually sit down on Saturday or Sunday. What are the activities for the week? Who's taking who to dance and soccer and whatever it may be. Generally the family schedule is pretty well set. Similarly for work though, that can change day to day. So that's usually like an end of the day routine for me. What did I leave unfinished today? What are the top priorities for tomorrow? And then time box. If I open up my day to my inbox, no chance that to-do list is ever going to get done. So sometimes the inbox has to wait, and then the priority things come in.
I'm gonna ask you in a second, Bob, but I want to tag team on that. Like, how do you force yourself to do that, Chris? Like, not to like jump in on Gift's question here, but how do you force yourself to block that time?
I've gone as far as not opening Outlook. If I know that it's going to distract me, I'm going to see something that I either feel passionate about or want to defend or get ahead of. Sometimes I just literally have to close Outlook to not do that. So
I love that.
Especially if there's a big deliverable like preparing for some of the questions today, that's easy to put off and do the emails of the urgent thing now and never get to the important things.
I love that. Thank you. Sorry. On to you, Bob.
We actually to kind of tag team on Chris there. I do a lot of the same he does there. At the end of the day, I'm looking at really tomorrow's schedule, trying to figure out how this is all going, how I'm gonna manage that workflow the next day. And then typically Sarah and I sit down once a week or twice a week, and we talk about what the evening and the weekend schedulers are going to look like. I do time boxing as well, and really as a company, we tried to commit to blocking off time throughout the day and not invading each other's schedules. So if you actually look at, if you were to look at my Outlook calendar, you're going to see that I have spots every day that is it is my catch-up time, or my time to really get those priorities done, and it is protected. It's got to be a pretty good emergency in order to to break into that time. And that really helps me stay organized by blocking that time. And then of course,
Wow.
maybe those, those boundaries within inside the company too, that others are trying not to schedule during that time.
Those are all great. Thank you. It's, Tiff and I both are parents as well. These are all, as I look at these questions, I'm like, we learn from one another. So we appreciate you guys sharing your thoughts on this and tricks of the trade. So thank you.
All right, so I'm going to go into maybe kind of a difficult question to ask here. I think we have 2 single parents on this panel right now, and I kind of, just for my own knowledge, I'm a single parent as well. How do you manage everything on your own? Not to negate from anybody who has, sometimes it's easier to manage on your own, like I could answer that on myself. Like sometimes it's easier to control everything. So I'm not, saying that having 2 parties or 1 party is better. I'm just saying, how do you do it all on your own with the sports and the kids and the school and the packing of the lunches, which we know is a whole thing in itself, right? So I'll kick it over to Lyndsay first.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. For me, sometimes it's being a single parent has been easier just because I can kind of control everything. And I'm definitely not a control freak at all. I would love help occasionally. And I do get a lot of help from family that's around for different things. But, it's just trying to get the kids involved in everything that I'm doing. And it's been an opportunity to teach them some skills. Like, for example, our yard, we have a very big yard. Mom usually cuts the grass, but a few years ago I said, you know what, this is an opportunity to really teach the kids a life skill. And they all come out and help me. And we have a yard day. So my youngest, who's 9, he mows the grass, loves to do it and does it beautifully. The twins will edge and weed and all kinds of things. And so involving them in what we have to do, like around the house, has been really helpful. And it's also teaching them something. So for me, that's kind of how I've managed it. And I think by doing that and then showing them that I can do things that maybe would be the responsibility of a husband, is also kind of empowering too. Like they're able to see me in a different light, doing different things. So involvement with the kids has been very helpful to me in keeping everything operating and working well.
I love that. If you could teach my kids how to do the yard work, I'd really, really appreciate it, Lyndsay. So maybe we'll talk a little bit after this call today, because I can't even get them to put dishes from their room into the dishwasher. But we'll talk. We'll talk after this.
Baby steps, Tiff. Baby steps. I think for me, it's like realizing, and just like any 2-family household, you can't do it all, and just continuously giving myself grace. And having my kids do the same. Like I give them grace. There's going to be things that slip through the cracks. If the laundry is not folded, but it's washed, like let's take that as a win, because we're always washing uniforms and trying to, keep the house moving. So I think just having those open kind of conversations about like, hey, sometimes we're all going to have to sacrifice, or hey, sometimes we can't all get to things on time. Like today, you're going to be 15 minutes late for practice because he has to leave 15 minutes early, just having those like open kind of coordinating, like huddle conversations with the kids and keeping them in the loop, I think also causes less stress. We're always setting expectations in the household, but really just like continuously, like, it's just like, your teams that you manage at work or your workload that you manage is like always kind of resetting priorities and expectations. And we just continuously, like I said, give each other grace.
That's going to be my mantra. And especially with like when Gift comes to me with extra work, I'm going to be like, give me some grace, Gift. Just give me some grace here. So no, I love that. I just want to reiterate a couple of things I've heard from this, and I'm going to kick it over back to Gift to ask some questions. But I mean, we talked about giving grace, like addressing our guilt. Time boxing is a huge one. Like I'm just taking some notes here for myself as I go back into it, and kind of like addressing with your family the busyness and craziness of your job. I think everybody here has said that. And I just love that. And I think, those are really big lessons I've learned so far in the beginning of this conversation. So I appreciate that as I take myself notes so I can go back and make sure I do some of them, right? I mean, I think that's important. We have to keep ourselves accountable for some of the things we tell ourselves we're going to do. And these are all great things. So thank you.
All right. So another thing, maybe along a similar theme is my previous question, but if you look at, people always talk about, I'm looking for a better work-life balance, and how is it that you guys balance your personal life with your work life without getting burned out and without, not having time to do one or the other or both?
Yeah, your me time is so important. I'm sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, go for it, Lyndsay.
Yeah. Your me time is so important because if you don't give yourself that time to relax, unleash, do what brings you joy, you're not going to be successful at work. And so I learned that a long, long time ago when I did come from a period of time where I was completely burnt out and I didn't have a great work-life balance, and I found myself disconnecting from the kids, and being able to, just allow yourself that time is so important. There's going to be days where you can't, where you've got several things coming up and deadlines approaching and big projects that are, at the forefront. But it's a balance. It's a give and take. I think the most important thing is just to make it a priority. Like, say no within your soul that having that me time for me is important, because if I don't take it and I don't utilize it, I'm not going to be successful in any part of my life.
Yeah, I just want to say, I appreciate you saying and being honest about, like, you were disconnecting, or you knew, I call it, I know I'm getting a little fired up, right? It's hard to address that within ourselves, right? To admit that we're doing something wrong and then to address it. So I appreciate you being so honest about that. Thank you. Chris, I know you had something to say.
Yeah, similar to Lyndsay's theme, I think it's easy as a parent, a spouse, an employee to give everything to one of those things and feel good about it. I could chase my kids around to all their sports and see everything, never miss a moment, but then not take time for myself or take time for my friends, and those other things suffer. So I think it's really important to constantly check in on yourself, and am I feeding the things that make me a whole person? Because I think it is super important for your kids to see you pursuing a hobby and feeling good about it, or taking a nap. Sometimes I like a good Sunday afternoon nap that makes me a much happier dad after I've done it. But it's also really easy to never allow yourself to do that. So it's keeping yourself in check and finding the balance.
Fantastic. Thank you.
We have a couple of questions coming through, and I know that Bob and Becky, I would love to hear what you guys have to say, but let's ask some real-time questions just pretty quickly on here. We have from our group, Lyndsay, how did you recognize you were disconnecting from your family when you were going through that period of burnout?
It's a really good question. And this is extremely real. So the twins were young, and I had just had Christopher. So he was an infant, and I was just going back to work. And I can remember right before I had gone out on maternity leave, you know how it is when you're about ready to have a baby, you're stressed, you don't feel well. I had some complications going on. So I felt like my work was suffering right before I had left. So when I came back to work after spending a few months with Christopher as an infant, I feel like I just gave it my all, and I just focused all my attention on work. And it was this, oh, I've got 3 children now. I need to do better. I need to make more money. I need to provide for them in a way that I wasn't before. And so I put it all in. And I can recall evenings sitting in the recliner, feeding Christopher his bottle with the laptop on the other side. And I have countless pictures of myself doing that. Excuse me. And I look back and I'm like, what was I doing? Why was I not present for that? Because I look at him now as a 9-year-old and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have that time back. So I don't think I recognized it right away. I knew I was doing it, and I knew that perhaps I shouldn't be, but I was so focused on this other stuff of, doing better in my career and making more money and getting promoted, when that's important. Those things are important. But what really is important is our family, our life, and being able to know when the right time is to give the attention somewhere versus work. So I can say I noticed it right away, but it took me a little bit to get out of it and realize what was really important in life.
That's great, Lyndsay. Thank you. You're giving such honest answers. I really appreciate it. I'm going to ask Chris a quick question on that, and then I'm going to go over to Becky and Bob with the question that's in the chat real quickly. But Chris, you have 5, right? You have 5 kids. Like, how do you get that me time, right? Same question as Lyndsay, like, how do you know when you're burning out? It's like, I got to put this on pause and I got to take care of myself first, right? I mean, you have a very big title, you all do. And it's like, you have to do that and be good for your teams, but also be good for your kids and then be good for yourself. How's that even possible?
Yeah, I think it's like anything else. If you schedule it and make time for it, it'll happen. So, I'm typically a 5 a.m. wake up person, and hopefully the kids don't wake up quite that early. The youngest is, touch and go if he's up when I'm up, but that's good time for me to read, reflect, relax, find that me time. Consequences, I fall asleep in my recliner at 8:45 at night, but still have that time in the morning that I can look forward to and really enjoy.
Thank you. I love that. Early morning. I'm an early morning person too, so I won't call you that early though. That would be that's your you time. So I'll make sure I don't call you then. So there you go. We have in the chat, I'm going to ask Becky and Bob this one. Most of you seem to be working from home. What are ways you decompress from a challenging day before you leave your office or your work area and have to immediately go into parent mode? Love it. Question. Thanks, Quan. I love this one.
Yes, of course, the commute is rather short. So, so yeah, that is the challenge. So for me, what works is, after a challenging day, I end up shutting down, the computer, and then I just really, I sit here and I get on my phone and I'll jump on Facebook and mindlessly scroll, or I'll jump on YouTube and, watch a video or two, and I'll just kind of take 10 minutes and chill here before I'll, try and switch out of that business mode, slow my mind down before entering that parent mode and making the 15-second commute.
I love that. I love that you didn't say TikTok. I feel like maybe that's a generational thing, but it's okay. Facebook, you got to get aged yourself there. We'll go with that.
Yeah, fill in the blank with your favorite social media or
right. How about you, Becky? And you're on mute. There you go.
Well, I certainly missed my commute, so had a in-office job and then transitioned to work from home. So before, I would have definitely said yes, that commute, that drive to pick up the kids or do something like that was like good decompression time. Now with being, work from home, I still have, grab them from school. So I have a little bit of extra time. But one thing that I just simply do is, like, when I ask my kids about their day, like per the routine, I usually just tell them about my day. And it's kind of just a way for me to like close out what I was doing or what I was feeling. And, it might just be 2 minutes of like, this happened or this didn't happen. So it also kind of level sets like where I am on maybe an emotional or a work state as well. And then the other thing I do religiously is I take my dog for a walk. So, that's like, he's also like, hey, everyone's home, let's go. So just having that like 15-minute, 20-minute walk with my dog to kind of level set, think through that normal commute time that I would have had is really helpful.
And I love this. I think a lot of the questions are going back, like they're kind of like bleeding into each other with some of this. Is it here, it's like me time is so important, we heard, right? So that's like a common theme here. Check in on yourself is what I heard too, which I really like. I like that one too. Take 5 minutes before you transition, whether it be Facebook or TikTok or wherever you want to, whatever you want to do, but take that 5-minute transition time and just, go for a walk, clear your head. I think that's very healthy as well. So I love hearing these things. All of these things I'm just constantly taking notes on. And I think everybody here if we can pick up on 1 or 2 things to do to better ourselves or better ourselves as parents and workers, I think this is gonna be really great.
One other thing just to add on that works really well for me, I found the difference between commuting from the office to home and being home. I had a really bad habit of I'll leave the computer up, I'll go do the family thing, and I'll tie up that one last thing. I'll do the last email, finish the deck, whatever it was. It's really helpful for me to actually shut down my computer, put it in my bag, even when I'm at home. That's that mental transition and closure that, for at least for me, that was a big difference between the commute and not having one anymore.
I love that. Turn it down, put it away. Don't have it glaring at you with its beeping, right? Like it's constant work. So shut it down. That's great. Thanks, Chris. What are your non-negotiables when it comes to family and work priorities? Like, what are some absolutely non-negotiables? Lyndsay, I see you popped right away. She's got an answer. Let's go. She's got a non-negotiable.
Yeah, non-negotiables for me are just any event that they have going on. I mean, kids, we've got them in, well, mine, they're in high school now and then elementary school. So two different areas in their life, and they've got various things going on. So for me, any event that's important to them is a non-negotiable for me. You know, and thankfully, again, it goes back to flexibility. I work for a very flexible company that allows me to leave for a parent-teacher conference, or, you know, leave a little bit early to be able to take them to a football game and things of that nature. So anything that's important to them, that they're working hard at, that they're reaching a goal for, I have to support that as their mom. So that's a non-negotiable for me.
I love it. It sounds like all of us here have really flexible employees in the sense that, like, I don't think anybody here has that guilt of walking away and saying, this is my non-negotiable. So I think we're all really lucky with that. I mean, I've been on times where I'm answering a phone call and you have like the noise in the background and the cheering and everything. And I've always been supportive with, like, oh, you're at that, we'll get back to this later. Do all of you guys feel that with where you're at? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I also think, like, really truly, like, the work from home environment has opened up so much more of that, just because people are more human. You know, we're seeing people in their home environments, we're seeing them in their natural work environments. So we're like, I might not have known Tiffany before that you had, you know, kids, and yet you have some sweet artwork in your background, you know, prior to that, you know, to like more people working remotely. And now I'm like, hey, they have a dog, they have a cat, they have kids, you know, you see the little faces poking in, and it just, I think, just has humanized the work world so much more, that you realize, like, hey, these people do have kids and they do want to go watch their baseball games or their basketball games, and you certainly wouldn't want to take that away from them as a leader as well. So I appreciate the flexibility so much. And I think when I talk to, you know, my clients, or I feel the same way. It's like, oh, your kids' games, like, let's just reschedule, or, you know, thanks for the quick answer. Have fun at your, you know, volleyball game or whatever it might be.
Awesome. How about you, Bob and Chris? Any non-negotiables, or is it the same thing? Kid events? Is that your?
You know, it's much the same, and it's you know, it's, if one of the kids was to come back, my 9-year-old is a very hugging kid, and if she comes in here, you know, it doesn't matter who I'm on the phone with, and she's coming over and we're getting a hug, and you're all going to get to see it. That is just life. So that's one of my non-negotiables. You know, I try, I can't call it non-negotiable, but I try to answer when they call. There's, you know, not a whole lot more important than my kids to me. So, you know, obviously business is very important, but, you know, most things can wait 30 seconds. You know, daughter's not going to be on the phone that long. So that's, you know, not really, I can't always answer, but I really do try. Two other things that are kind of, I guess we'll call them weird, or I don't know that they fit in this box, but non-negotiables are a family vacation every year, period, end of story, and a vacation every year. And a family trip includes kids, and the vacation does not.
Yeah, there's something about, like, it when you have kids and you're family trip, we'll call it. I like that. It's like you're just parenting in another location. They also feel that way. It's like, you know, you're on vacation, but you're just parenting somewhere else. I've seen Nicole, I don't know if she's here, but she went with her 3 little ones to Disney. I'm like, you should take the week off when you come back, right? Because that is not a vacation, right? You go with 3 little ones to Disney, you come back more exhausted than if you worked all week. So I do love the difference of a family trip and a vacation. I am totally using that from now on when I code my calendar. I'm on a vacation, not a family trip. Leave me alone too.
Yeah, I think for me, similar story. You know, there's stuff that I just won't miss: birthdays, holidays, sporting events. You know, that said, there are things that come up that for whatever reason you can't miss, or maybe you plan to be home and your flight gets canceled, and things happen. So I think it goes back to communication, and, you know, setting the tone with your kids that, you know, what your intentions are, and they know your character. If it's out of your control, they get that too. And so teaching them flexibility and understanding that things do come up, while making every endeavor to make the important things priority.
I love that. We do have a question for you in the chat, Chris, and I'm going to turn it over to Gift for the next question. How do you disengage with email on your phone? So you talked about turning the laptop down, and immediately this question came up, and I would love to hear your answer because I know you see it. So how do you disengage from that?
Yeah, and thankfully my kids aren't being asked these questions because they might have a different viewpoint. But yeah, I struggle with it, honestly. Number one, I turn off my email notifications on my phone, so I don't get distracted with every pop-up or buzz on my wrist. I really try and do a good job of setting my phone across the room, just habitually, be sitting there with nothing else on my mind and pick it up and start scrolling through stuff. So it's not to say I never check the email at night, but between 5 and 8:39 till the kids go to bed, that's my time with them that I try and keep sacred, and that I don't get distracted by that stuff.
Put the phone across the room, Miranda, is the answer. I think I like that. And take the watch off because it does buzz and it's coming through with it. So
Yep.
Phone across the room, I like that. It's great. Got to teach the teenage kids how to do that though, I think, right? I think that'll be our struggle. Skip over to you.
Sure. Hoping someone can share, or a couple of you, how has having children affected your career and how you manage others who have families?
Yeah, I'll take this one. And again, just trying to be completely real. I would say having children has not affected my career at all. Especially now. And I think maybe after COVID, like just the world changed. I think somebody said it, Becky, maybe you said it. We're just more human now. People get it. But I will share that years prior, I would go into interviews and I would feel like I had to cover that part of me. I felt like I had to kind of hide that part of me and maybe not share that I had twin babies, and maybe not share that I was a single parent, because I always felt like that might make them look at me in a different way and make them say, oh my gosh, wow, she's got a lot on her plate. Like maybe she's not the right person for this role. And really, I mean, parents, whether say it's a single parent or not, I mean, we're the hardest working people there are in America, right? Parents, we know how to do it. We know how to do everything at once and get it all done. So yeah, I mean, I can say, again, I've learned a lot through my career and my leadership. And that was one thing that I used to do, and I don't do that anymore. I don't ever cover that part of me. I share that part of me openly. And thankfully, again, I think it always goes back to, who you work for, the company, the people around you. And then just that broader understanding now that we are all human and that we have things. We have kids, we have elderly parents. I have an elderly parent that I take care of now too. She relies on me for a lot now. She's 78. So being open and upfront about what you have is always good. And I think folks appreciate that. But I can't say that it's ever put me in a situation where it's held me back.
Thank you. Anybody else have something? Go ahead.
Yeah, Lyndsay, I had a somewhat similar start. So my twins are from my first marriage. I went through a divorce when they were 10 months old, and my 3 now are from my current marriage. I remember meeting with a mentor at the time, and I worked for Nationwide at the time. And big thing was, if you wanted to move up in your career, you had to move around the country. You had to be able to relocate. And I remember being asked, will you relocate? And I sort of hemmed and hawed around it. He said, I asked you that on purpose because I know you can't. You should not, if your priorities are where I think they are, you're not going to move away from your kids. So he said, look, just own it. You are not mobile. That doesn't mean it's career limiting. It's career refining. So if the jobs that you take will be with companies in Central Ohio or places you can work, remotely with those companies. So it helped me see that it was okay to say, no, relocation is not for me, or a job where I travel 90% of the time is not for me. It drew boundaries, but it didn't limit it. It just helped me refine what was important. Yeah,
same goes for me. I mean, obviously I can't move either because, their dad is here. So it's not same situation. So it has limited me from a few opportunities, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's, hindered me from being where I'm at now.
You,
That's
Bob and Becky.
fantastic. Thanks. Go ahead, Tiff.
Oh, I was just gonna say, but I'd like to hear Bob and Becky's answer about the children affecting their career as well.
So just from my pure, I think part of the question too was like, how does that help you like relate to people? I think just overall having children has like helped me develop my own emotional intelligence around, feelings and, how can you still get results without, not, kicking and screaming at like a child throwing a tantrum, right? Those kind of things. But I actually would say that I haven't had the same maybe positive experience to some extent. So there have been interviews that I've been in where I'm like, I don't know that I would fly now, but have been straight out asked like, how do you plan to manage traveling with children? And that was when I was married or had those questions, or even a couple instances, it's like, oh, are you going to work from home today and be a mom, or are you going to work from home today and work? So like not, overall not great like experiences, but I think that overall like that's taught me a lot and just how to frame my perspective on things, and kind of that chalk it up to like the what not to do to your teammates. And again, times have changed a lot. I've grown a lot in my career, but not always like an awesome experience in the past. So
I don't have a whole lot on this one, Tiff. Prior to Keystone, I owned my own business, and then of course after I joined Keystone, we had children, and Keystone's a very understanding company when it comes to families and family priorities. So it really hasn't limited me within the market.
That's great. I'm gonna go off of the questions that we kind of have prepped. So I'm gonna throw some things at you because I'm just like spitballing off of what y'all just said. Would you tell your younger self something different about how you handled talking about your children? Like if you can go back and go back to that first point, because I did it too. Like I kind of hid it for a while because I was like, they're not going to think I'm capable of doing my job and being a parent, right? Like, and being a single parent or a parent in general. Like sometimes you feel like the title might not be able to do everything if you're going after a title, right? So I talk about my children, as you can see, nonstop now, but my younger self didn't, right? And I'm disappointed in my younger self, or maybe it's just like a learning lesson. But do you guys have anything you would tell your younger self that you would now not do as a parent? A working parent,
just to be your authentic self. I mean, that's always the right way to go, is just to be open, honest, transparent. And like I said, it almost sometimes has been a benefit to talk through, because like I said, parents are the hardest working people there are. We are able to juggle it all, and you're able to show that you can be responsible and have several obligations and be able to do everything. And I think if you tie it back to your performance and show your performance in your prior roles or prior companies that you've been with, and the success that you've had there, you can speak to any concerns that there might be, or unspoken biases that there might be about being a parent or a single parent, in fact. And if you don't mind, I wanted to touch on another part of the question. I think the question was like, how do you do it to positively influence others? I mean, gosh, we on this call, this panel, we're the makeup of every other employee that we have at our companies, right? The majority of everybody else that we work with is a parent. And having these experiences, being honest of what we have to go through every day, and even down to thinking about what type of benefits we would like with the company that we work for. Like having all of these conversations and, having these experiences, let us influence that in our organizations and our companies. At Progressive, when I was on the ERG board and as chair for our Parent Connection ERG, we were able to take feedback like this on calls just like this and change benefits that we offered. Flexibility of working from home, flexibility with schedules, all those types of things. So it really can be a positive influence as well.
Tiffany, back to your what you asked, would I tell my younger self something different? I think back prior to 2020, I think one of the best things that came out of work at home and COVID and all that was, we get to show our authentic selves on calls like this and our everyday meetings. It's not, prior to that, you didn't necessarily see inside people's homes and, what was important to them. Also, realizing that everybody has stuff going on. If maybe they have kids, maybe they have a sick pet, they have an elderly parent, a spouse, a friend, everybody's got stuff. So I think that's, if 10 years ago before, or 12 years ago before kids, realizing that it's okay to have stuff and be open with it, because everybody's dealing with something, and just being comfortable with that and comfortable sharing, and that's what I would have done differently.
Thank you so much for that. That's so great. Becky or Bob, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would echo the be. I think I have three things. I'd say be authentic first and foremost to myself.
Yeah.
I'd say don't feel so guilty, and third, talk to others. As Chris articulated, whether we have children or not, there's something going on in all of our lives, in business and in personal, and we're not alone in this. We all have our these same struggles.
I love it. I'm like, authentic self, talk to others, share openly. Like, these are not themes I think were brought up many years ago, right? And so this is the group here that's changing that. It's really nice to hear that you all, with your leadership, that's probably how you're leading your teams, which is really great. Becky, did you have anything to add?
I think overall, one of the things that I just think about in this conversation, I do think about how does gender play into that? And so thinking through as the female or as the male employee, the assumptions, right, that we make around primary caregivers or who can handle what. I think just thinking back through that, both as an employee and as a leader, try to reset some of those thoughts and expectations around, making sure that we understand, again, we all have something going on, and that that shouldn't be necessarily define who we are as workers, but it certainly does define who we are as people.
Well said. Giff, I don't know, we have 10 minutes left, and I know we have a bunch of questions. Is there anything you want to ask before I, of course, as I always do, talk too much and ask a million questions? Want to make sure you get your questions asked. No,
I guess the question I have for the group is, if there's one thing that you could tell someone, that's on this call, something you learned from someone else about being a working parent and making that work that we haven't already covered yet. We learn the best from our peers, in my mind. And, I've learned a lot over my career, from watching what others do and how others did things and how they prioritize things. But I'd love to hear, what have you guys picked up from others that you're so glad that you incorporated that into the way that you handle your work-life balance as a working parent?
Great question.
I'll chime in, and I'll just say I've been very motivated and inspired by our CEO. She was a single mom for a while. She had children with her first marriage, then was divorced, and then have children with a second marriage, similar to you, Chris. Yet, she's our CEO. She navigated from being, an entry-level position at Progressive to where she is now. And she even had periods of time in her life and in her career where she took a step back, and she took a step back in the position that she was in, depending on what was going on at home, the age of her children, what they had going on, her relationships. And then that's okay. It's okay to have that type of life and still be able to be successful and be able to say when you should step back and give yourself more time. So she's been an inspiration for me. I've learned a lot from her, and she keeps me motivated.
I love that.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's helped me is seeing other leaders be transparent about their personal selves. I remember being surprised, the senior exec who was coaching his kids travel baseball team. My kids play baseball, and I know that's no joke. Huge time commitment. So thinking through, hey, this person finds a way to find the balance and still be very successful in his career, be very approachable, but also shows kids what's important to him. I think seeing other people do that gives me courage that, hey, I can strive for that balance too, and it doesn't have to be all career or all family. You can blend both.
I learned from one of the people at Keystone that I can put the phone down, especially at 8 p.m. at night. It's okay. The world will survive without me. And it has.
Okay, I'm taking notes over here. So keep going.
For me, I would say to just stop spreading myself so thin and really take an inventory. And I know that's kind of been a theme of like, what am I passionate about? Like, I don't have to join every committee, or I don't have to be on a board just because, you know, it's like there will be a season for that in my life or in my career. And I just need to focus on like what's truly passionate to me and what I care about. And the rest is just noise, and allowing yourself kind of that permission to say no, whether it's to work or to personal things, like really trying to focus on what's important, I think to me has been a big help. And sometimes that also means like not falling into things that everyone else is doing, or if it means like I have to join the PTO because your friends are doing it, like I can say no. They've got it. The world will go on without me, similar to putting down the phone. And also, hot advice to new parents: don't do Elf on the Shelf.
Just Elf on the Shelf. Oh yes, that's great advice.
That's the best advice.
Don't put yourself under that kind of pressure.
Becky, it's funny. My wife, she worked as well, and she said, we are not doing this Elf on the Shelf thing. And our kids are like, why don't we have an elf? Like, I don't know. He just never showed up here. And to this day, she's like, that was so good.
I told my kids only the naughty kids get Elf on the Shelf because they get an extra helper. So that's awesome. my hot parenting tip of the day.
Oh my God, that's so great.
Well, for the other parents that are out there, I would echo a lot of what they just said. And especially if you have a new manager or you're in a new role, I would encourage you to be very transparent about your family life and your priorities and your conflicts. And in the absence of knowledge, people often fill in blanks with a made up story, and they don't know what's going on. They're like, hey, why is Dan not available, at whatever time? You know why? Because he takes his kids to school from 7:30 to 8:30 or whatever it is. And that's why we don't have meetings with Dan between 7:30 and 8:30. Like, once you know that and you understand that pattern, you're much more tolerant and you're much more engaged around that person. You made another connection, and now it's like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And I know that he's going to put extra hours in later and get it done. It's just, that's a window that doesn't work for him. I got it. But if you don't communicate it, for all of you out there in the audience, if you don't pre-communicate, then you run the risk of somebody misinterpreting your action or your inaction because you weren't as responsive as they expected you to be. And there's a simple answer. It's just called communication. And that'd just be a little bit of tidbit that I share, unsolicited. So
no,
Tiff's used to unsolicited feedback.
I like that one. Your sports analogies and everything else, I do not like, but that one I will keep from you. We are coming up with 2 minutes left. So I just wanted to say a couple of things and reiterate a couple of things that I heard today, and then let you guys have any last one-liners you want to give to new parents, working parents, etc. Check in on yourself, be your authentic self, talk to others, be transparent, communicate, share openly, give yourself grace. Doesn't have to be all career or all family. Really love that one. The world will survive without me. And you don't have to join everything. You can just say no. So with that being said, any other one lines? We'll go, Chris, you're on my screen first, so you'll go there.
Yeah, just try and keep in perspective. You get 18 summers, 18 holiday breaks until they're out of the house. It goes quick. So make the most of it.
Love it. Becky, you're next.
I think I already gave my hot tip about Elf on the Shelf, but I would just say, like, enjoy both, right? We spend so much time working, we spend so much time with kids, like find joy in both of those things. Because sometimes it's really hard, right? But spending time enjoying it as well, I think, is just something to focus on.
Thank you. Bob?
Take care. Don't forget about yourself. Take care of yourself too. Take a guy's trip, take a girl's trip.
Family vacation and
At least one family, at least one vacation, and at least one family trip a year. Yes.
I love it.
Please.
Lindsay?
Similar to what Chris said, we only have so much time. It's all about the memories. That's what you keep with you. That's what you're thinking about when you're an old person and unable to do the work that we do every day now, and you're thinking back on your life. You're not thinking about the great email that you sent or the great presentation that you did. You're thinking about the summer trip that you took with your kids and your wife and your loved ones. So just don't forget to make those memories.
I love it. Gift, do you want to close us out?
Before I do, what's your one tip, Tiff?
My one tip for everybody, I think, is to trust yourself. Like that's something that I took me years to learn, is that I am doing the best I can. I'm going to fail a million times with my kids. I'm going to make mistakes at work, but I have to trust that I'm always thinking about doing the right thing and to trust myself. It is really hard to do that because I think I used to second guess myself a lot. Now I'm like, okay, I really believe in this. Let's go for it. Or I really, need to do this today for them and this today for work, and just trusting my abilities to handle it all and trusting myself first.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank our panelists, Chris, Becky, Bob, Lyndsay. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend time with the Bold Penguin family, sharing information about your own personal family. But to us, it means a lot. And I want to especially thank the committee that put this together, and at the risk of saying all the wrong names, a couple I want to call out: Tiff, for your work here. This was awesome. Kelly, Allison, Ann Fidel, Allison Harmon, some of the others. I know I missed some of you, but I've done a lot of things at Bold Penguin and other places. This might have been one of the best organized, panels and discussions and opportunities to interact with our team and beyond that I've been involved in. And you guys all have a day job, and this was just extracurricular. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your dedication. Good luck to everyone with their families, and hope everybody has a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Panelists cannot thank you enough. You'll be hearing from us shortly. We got some gifts for you and your kids, so we'll be reaching out shortly for that. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you. Go Phillies.
Thanks for having us.